Welcome to Boring History for Sleep, and thanks for joining me tonight. In this episode, we will journey to the 19th century, the era of the Industrial Revolution. Imagine yourself as a worker in Manchester around the 1840s. Your day begins with the chime of the factory bell. You make your way through the bustling streets, past shops and homes, all the while dodging puddles and the occasional horse. The rhythmic clatter of the mill draws you in. Inside, the air is thick with dust and the sound of spinning looms. You join your fellow workers at their machines, tending to the endless flow of textiles. The hours pass in a blur of activity as you weave cloth for the day. Now, let us shift our focus to a Sombart Kingdom Brunel, the brilliant engineer who designed the Great Western Railway. Picture yourself standing before him in his London office. Brunel is a visionary, determined to connect the nation through rail. He speaks with passion about his latest project, the Clifton Suspension Bridge. But his dreams extend beyond bridges and railways. He aspires to create a world without boundaries, a world where people and goods can travel swiftly and efficiently. Our next stop takes us to London's East End. The year is 1888, and the city is gripped by fear as the notorious Jack the Ripper stalks the night. We find ourselves amidst the labyrinthine streets where gaslights illuminate a world of poverty and grime. The fog hangs heavy in the air, concealing the killer's identity. Our final scene unfolds in a grand Victorian mansion. The year is 1890, and the house is adorned with exquisite furniture and artifacts from around the world. The family prepares for dinner by candlelight, a stark contrast to the darkness that lingers outside. The aroma of roasting meat fills the air as servants bustle about, ensuring that every detail is perfect for the evening meal. In the bustling city of Manchester, where the Industrial Revolution was in full swing, there lived a family who were deeply affected by the rapid changes brought about by the new machines. The father, Thomas, worked long and hard in the cotton mill, operating the machines that were the backbone of the industry. His wife, Elizabeth, helped him with the work whenever she could, but most days she took care of their 3 young children, Mary, Joseph, and little Samuel. One day, young Mary, being the oldest at 8 years old, wanted to help support her family and asked her mother if she could work in the mill. Elizabeth knew that working in the mill was dangerous for a child and went against her daughter, his wishes, but she could unhelp but think that maybe Mary would be safer in the mill than out on the streets. So she took her daughter to the mill and asked the overseer if he could watch over her and make sure she stayed out of trouble. The overseer agreed, and Mary started working alongside her father, dodging around the machines and trying her best to keep up with the other workers. One day, while working in the mill, Mary accidentally got her dress caught in a machine. She screamed for help, and luckily, her father and the other workers stopped the machine just in time. They all rushed to help her, and Thomas, holding his daughter close, promised her that this would never happen again. He took her home that day, and for the first time, she wasn't covered in soot and grime from head to toe. That night, as the family ate their supper together, Mary told her parents about the kindness of the overseer and some of the other workers who had helped her that day. She said, "It's not so bad working in the mill. We have to be quick and careful, but everyone helps each other out. And besides, we have to do it to help our family." Her parents were proud of their strong-willed daughter, but Elizabeth couldn't help but worry for her safety. The next day, Mary asked her father if she could go back to work in the mill. Thomas agreed, knowing that he couldn't take away his daughter's chance to help the family. As the Industrial Revolution continued to pick up steam, more and more children like Mary were needed to work in the factories. Many families depended on the money their children earned to survive, and there were few laws to protect them from the harsh conditions of the mills. As the years passed, Mary grew older and became a skilled worker in the mill. She learned how to fix the machines when they broke and could operate them faster than anyone else. The overseer, seeing her talent, promoted her to a supervisor position, making her responsible for the work of other children in the mill. One day, The family was eating supper when Mary told her parents, "I have been thinking we should take Samuel out of the mill. He's too young to be working there. Let him go to school instead." Okay. Her parents thought about this for a moment. They knew that it was important for Samuel to get an education, but they also needed the money he earned in the mill. After some discussion, they decided that it was best for Samuel to stay out of the mill and go to school instead. As the evening wore on, Mary and her family talked about their hopes and dreams for the future. They knew that life was hard, but they also knew that they had each other, and that was what mattered most. They looked up at the sky, watching the stars twinkle above them, and dreamed of a brighter future for themselves and their family. Dear audience, thank you for joining us on this journey through time. If you enjoyed this glimpse into the past, don't forget to stay tuned for more historical tales. Each story is a new adventure, a chance to walk in the footsteps of those who came before us. Your support allows us to keep bringing these stories to life. So thank you, and remember, history is more than just dates and facts. It's a tapestry of lives lived, lessons learned, and moments that shaped our world. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep discovering the magic in every page of history. Picture London's bustling East End in the late 1800s. Here in the heart of the city, workers toiled in matchstick factories, their hands stained with chemicals. Suddenly, there's a commotion. Someone has found a body, a woman lying dead, her face contorted in a silent scream. But she's not alone. Across London and the East End, similar deaths occur. Victims found in their homes or on the streets, their faces frozen in terror. People whisper of a killer on the loose, a monster lurking in the shadows. But as the body count rises, fear turns to confusion. No one can explain why these women are being attacked, how the killer manages to strike and vanish. London is gripped by a mystery that baffles the police and haunts its people. As the newspapers call it, the Jack the Ripper murders. The case remains unsolved even today. Who was Jack the Ripper? What drove him to commit these crimes? We may never know. Up in the heart of Victorian London, fear ran rampant. During the killings, there were many theories. One led to a local doctor, a suspect who bore a striking resemblance to a well-known artist, Walter Sickert. Just imagine the tension, the gaslight illuminating the tense scene in a London room. Accusations fly, evidence is examined, but ultimately, the doctor is cleared of suspicion. However, another theory persists, linking Sir Arthur Conan Doyle to the brutal crimes. Now picture a study filled with books and pipes. Could the creator of Sherlock Holmes have been involved in such darkness? This idea, too, seems outlandish, yet the theory persists. As the investigation continues, people begin to focus on the area where the crimes occur, Whitechapel. It's a place where poverty and disease run rampant, where the fog of gaslight hides countless secrets. Amidst the maze of narrow streets and dark alleys, the police struggle to find any trace of the killer. The Whitechapel murders, as they're known, become a sensation. People are afraid to walk the streets alone, especially at night. The killer seems to strike at random, and no one is safe. There's Catherine Eddowes, her throat slashed, her body mutilated. Annie Chapman is next, found in a pool of blood, her face horribly disfigured. Mary Nichols joins them, along with Elizabeth Stride and Catherine Foster, each a victim of the same unknown assailant. But what is he like? Who is this creature who stalks the night, preying on unsuspecting women? Is he a madman, a demon, or something else entirely? The question haunts London. The fog seems thicker now, hiding not only the killer, but the truth itself. After the last victim, the mystery deepens. Scotland Yard is baffled. Theories abound, but none can explain the brutality of the crimes or the killer's motive. Over time, the Jack the Ripper case becomes one of history's great unsolved mysteries, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk in even the most civilized society. And then, as if to add another layer to this haunting tale, There's a rumor that the killer's identity was known, that the real Jack the Ripper walked freely among them, but his name was never revealed. The thought sends a shiver down the spine. In the gaslit streets of Whitechapel, fear and uncertainty prevailed. Who was Jack the Ripper? That question echoes through the ages, a testament to the enduring power of one of history's most terrifying mysteries. If you've ever found yourself wandering through London's historic streets, perhaps you, too, have felt the chill of this haunting tale. Or maybe you've heard stories around campfires, the flickering flames casting dancing shadows as someone whispers of a killer stalking the night. The story of Jack the Ripper is more than a crime. It's a reflection of our fascination with the darkness that can lurk in the human heart. So now, I'll ask you, do you believe the killer's identity was truly known but kept secret? Or perhaps you have your own theories about the case. Please share your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this journey through history and mystery, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for joining me on this journey through time. Until next time, stay curious. Imagine you are standing in the middle of a crowded London street. Horse-drawn carriages clatter past you, the air filled with the scent of horses and the murmur of many voices. Shopkeepers call out wares from their stalls, hawking ribbons, lace, and fabric. Above you, gas lights begin to flicker on, pushing back the gathering darkness. You are in the heart of London, alive with the bustle of daily life. And in this world of industry and commerce, of horse-drawn traffic and gaslight, there is another presence, less tangible, yet no less real. It is the spirit of competition, the relentless drive for success that pulses through the veins of Victorian England. Now we leave behind the bridges and engines of Brunel's world, and wander instead through the narrow, winding streets of London's East End. It is the late 1880s. The Industrial Revolution has transformed England into a nation of wealth and power. But here, in Whitechapel, the streets tell another story. Imagine yourself walking slowly down a cobbled lane. Gas lamps flicker faintly, casting pools of yellow light that do not quite reach the shadows. The smell is a mixture of smoke from nearby factories, damp brick walls, and the faint sourness of refuse left in alleys. Whitechapel was one of London's poorest districts. Families crowded into single rooms, sometimes more than a dozen people sharing a single dwelling. The streets bustled by day with costermongers selling food, horse carts rattling by, and children weaving through the noise. But at night, the mood changed. The lamps were weak, the streets narrow, the buildings leaning over as if to swallow the sky. It was here, in 1888, that a figure appeared who would pass into legend. Though his true identity was never known, the newspapers would give him a name, Jack the Ripper. The crimes attributed to him were shocking for their time. Women, most of them poor, many living precarious lives, were found murdered in the dark corners of Whitechapel. The police were baffled. The public grew anxious. The newspapers printed every rumor and detail, feeding both fascination and fear. You do not need to imagine the grim details closely. It is enough to know that these were violent acts, deeply unsettling in their time. What matters for us tonight is the way the mystery unfolded, and how it captured the imagination of a city already struggling under the weight of poverty, disease, and social tension. The police investigated tirelessly. Detectives walked the streets, interviewing witnesses, chasing leads. Letters began to arrive, some claiming to be from the killer himself. Most were hoaxes, perhaps written by journalists or pranksters, but the mystery deepened nonetheless. Each headline, each rumor, made the figure of Jack the Ripper grow larger in the public mind. Even the geography of Whitechapel became part of the story. Narrow courts, hidden passageways, small yards where gaslight barely reached. The maze of streets created both fear and fascination. For those who lived there, the sense of danger was added to an already heavy burden of survival. For those reading the papers from afar, the East End became a place of mystery, half real, half imagined. The murders stopped as suddenly as they began. The figure who had haunted Whitechapel seemed to vanish. No one was ever caught, no confession ever accepted. Over the years, countless theories have been suggested. Was the Ripper a local tradesman, a doctor, a member of the aristocracy? Each possibility has been examined, argued over, and left unresolved. Even now, more than a century later, the name remains. Jack the Ripper has become less a person than a storied symbol of urban fear, of mystery without answer, of the shadows that linger in history. For those who lived in Whitechapel, the fear was real. But with the passing of time, the story has softened into legend. Tonight, we need not chase the killer, nor pore over evidence. Instead, we acknowledge that some mysteries remain unsolved, suspended between fact and imagination. And so, our journey continues through the heart of Victorian London. Two worlds vividly painted, two sides of life in an era of great change and challenge. From the fog-bound streets of Brunel's London to the gaslit alleys of Whitechapel, we have seen the darkness and the brilliance, the struggle and the spectacle of a city in transition. As the night deepens, let us carry these stories with us, not just as tales of the past, but as echoes of human experience that continue to shape our world. For it is in the interplay of light and shadow, of triumph and tragedy, that the true story of a city, a nation, a world unfolds. And as long as we remember, we keep these stories alive. All right, let's do some rapid-fire Victorian-era questions. What did people eat? Well, first off, breakfast was usually pretty simple. Eggs, bacon, perhaps some porridge or toast. Lunch was often a light meal, maybe a sandwich or some cold cuts. But dinner was the big meal of the day. It might start with an appetizer like soup, followed by fish, and then meat dishes. Think roast beef or lamb. And finally, there would be a sweet course, perhaps some fruit or dessert like plum pudding. Oh, and don't forget the bread. Bread was a staple at every meal. What did the wealthy eat? They ate well. They had access to exotic ingredients from around the world, and they weren't shy about showing off. Their menus might feature dishes from French cuisine, and they might serve dishes made with ingredients like lobster, turtle, and even delicacies like caviar. How did they prepare their food? Well, thanks to the Industrial Revolution, the way people cooked was changing. More and more people were relying on convenience foods like canned goods and packaged sauces. And some lucky folks even had the luxury of electric or gas-powered kitchen appliances. What about the servants? What did they eat? Servants often ate whatever was left over from the master's meals. They might also get a small allowance so they could purchase their own food. But it was uncommon for servants to supplement their diet with what they could grow in a garden or what they could forage in the wild. Did people eat with their hands or with utensils? They used utensils, of course. The basic set included a knife, a fork, and a spoon. Forks were used for everything except eating bread, which was meant to be eaten with your hands. By the end of the Victorian era, though, some people started using a new utensil, the toothpick. What kind of food did children eat? Children were often given smaller portions of the same food that adults ate, but they weren't necessarily seen as little adults. Things like porridge or milk were common breakfast foods for children, and many families had a tradition of serving special dishes for children on Sundays, like pancakes or fried bread, right? Time for some fun. So imagine we're having a picnic in Hyde Park. You've packed a basket with all sorts of goodies, sandwiches, perhaps a nice pie. The sun is shining, and there's a gentle breeze. Suddenly, a group of ragged children approach you. They're dirty, their clothes are torn, and they haven't eaten in days. A tone. How do you react? Well, if you're a typical Victorian, you might not react at all. It's not your responsibility to take care of these children. That's the job of their parents or the local charities. But maybe you feel a twinge of guilt. Maybe you share your food with them. Or maybe, just maybe, you decide to do something more. In Whitechapel, Jack the Ripper strikes again. His latest victim is Mary Jane Kelly, a young woman who lived and worked as a prostitute in the East End of London. Her brutalized body is found lying on the floor of her room, the walls and floor covered in blood. People are starting to panic. Who is Jack the Ripper? No one knows for sure, but there are plenty of theories. Could it be Walter Sickert, the artist? Perhaps he's the man who lurks in the shadows, striking terror into the hearts of Londoners. Or maybe it's Prince Albert Victor, the future king. He was out late one night and was seen talking to a prostitute, but when the police searched his home, they found nothing. Could he be the killer? These theories and others like them have kept people guessing for over 100 years. Who is Jack the Ripper? We may never know, but we can be sure that his crimes happened in a time of great social change, a time when old ways of life were being replaced by new ones. Well, that's our show for today. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe. And if you'd like to support the channel, please consider making a donation. Until next time, goodbye. So grab a blanket and a picnic basket, pack your parasol and your bathing machine, and get ready for a history hot tip. Just don't forget to come back. It's time for a Victorian seaside holiday. Now close your eyes and imagine you are standing in a busy railway station in Manchester or London. It is the year 1875, and you have managed, against the odds, to put aside enough money to take a modest holiday by the sea. Behind you, the factory air has weighed heavily on your chest, and the unending churn of machinery still echoes in your mind. For you, the prospect of a few days by the coast offers not only relief, but the first true sense of leisure that your family has ever known. Your journey begins with a deep breath as you step onto the train. It is a marvel of iron and steam, loud and powerful, yet strangely comforting. Inside the carriages, the wooden seats are polished smooth by countless travelers like you. There is little comfort by modern standards, but the rhythmic clatter of wheels against the tracks soon begins to weave a spell. As the countryside drifts past the windows, you watch green fields open up before you, dotted with sheep and winding hedgerows. Slowly, the scent of coal smoke gives way to the temps of salt air, and then, as suddenly as it began, your journey ends. You step down onto the platform at Brighton, or perhaps Blackpool, and you find yourself enveloped by the sights, sounds, and smells of a seaside resort in full swing. Around you, other day trippers and holiday makers start to disembark, many of them making a beeline for the beach. There, in the distance, you see rows of bathing machines, those curious wooden huts on wheels, drawn by sturdy horses. They plod patiently into the shallows, allowing men and women to enter the sea with a sense of modesty. As you make your way down to the shore, you hear the gentle rhythm of the tide rolling in, waves folding softly over the pebbled shore. Overhead, the cries of gulls mingle with the laughter of children holding spades and buckets, determined to build castles that the incoming tide will inevitably claim. Walking along the pier, you pass striped awnings and little shops selling boiled sweets. Donkey rides are offered along the sands, the patient animals plodding along slowly with small riders perched on their backs. Further along, you see middle-class families stroll arm in arm, their parasols and hats swaying gently in the breeze. Many of these visitors are making their first holiday ever, a chance to breathe in deeply, to taste the salt on the air, and to feel the vastness of the horizon. In this moment, it feels as though all the cares and worries that seem to dog your every step back in the city have been washed away by the endless churning of the sea. As the sun begins its slow journey towards the horizon, gas lamps are lit along the promenade, casting a golden shimmer across the water. The sea reflects the glow, turning it into a trembling, liquid mirror. From somewhere close by, you hear a small band playing a waltz. The notes, drift away on the breeze, mingling with the cries of the gulls. By the time night falls, the beach is quiet again, save for the steady rhythm of the waves endlessly lapping against the shore as they have for centuries. Back on the platform, the train is waiting to take you home. As you climb aboard, you feel the weight of the city lifting from your shoulders. Perhaps a day at the seaside is not going to solve the problems of industrial life, but for a few precious hours, you have escaped the clamor of the crowd, the grime of the factories, and the smoke-filled air. You have tasted, if only for a moment, the gentler rhythm of the sea. For the Victorians, this moment of leisure was more than a holiday. It was an escape from the intensity of industrial life, a glimpse of something calmer, wider, and more enduring than their daily struggles. And for you, listening now, it offers a gentle place to rest in your imagination, far from the clatter of factories and the smoke of the cities. Thank you so much for joining me on this History Hot Tip. If you enjoyed this mini audio adventure, please do follow for more. Until next time, goodbye. The holiday has ended and you find yourself once again aboard a train, but this time it is night. The year is 1875 and the railway carriages are dimly lit by flickering oil lamps hanging from the ceiling. The wooden seats are worn smooth by countless journeys and creak softly as passengers shift in their rest. Some lean against the windows, their breath fogging the glass, while others nod towards uneasy sleep. Side, the world is a blur of shadow and faint light. The train cuts through the dark countryside, its wheels beating out a steady rhythm against the rails, chuffing steam and the occasional mournful whistle echo across the night and then fade into silence as the countryside swallows them. Beyond the glass, fields stretch out, hidden under the cover of darkness, their outlines only guessed at by the silver wash of moonlight. You imagine the scattered cottages you pass, their hearths glowing faintly like fallen stars. Each window a watchful eye peering out at the darkness. Villages drift by in moments, a cluster of rooftops, a steeple silhouetted against the stars, and then they vanish again into the night. The ride is not fast, not by modern standards, but it carries with it a sense of being gently carried forward, rocked by the rails. It's a feeling of movement without haste, a journey into the stillness of the night. Wrapped in your cloak, you pull your hat further down, hiding your face in its shadow. A young mother holds her child close, shielding him from the chill night air with her own body. A businessman, his face lined with fatigue, leans back, closing his eyes against the unending darkness. Across the carriage, an elderly couple sits side by side, their hands intertwined, lost in their own silent world. The rhythmic sway of the train and the gentle murmur of voices create a sense of camaraderie among the passengers, a shared experience that transcends the boundaries of class and circumstance. The train slows, then stops, and a guard in a red cap strides through the carriages, his lantern held high, checking tickets with a polite nod before continuing down the corridor. He disappears into the darkness, leaving behind the faint smell of oil and coal mingled with the wool and leather of coats and boots. As the train pulls away from the station, the sound of hammering and hissing dies down, replaced by the steady chug of the engine. Outside, the darkness is pierced by the silver thread of moonlight, revealing glimpses of the landscape as the train rushes past. Dark trees, fields, and the occasional cottage with a window glowing like a welcoming eye. Time seems to slow. Each mile marker is a victory over the darkness, each station a challenge overcome. With every passing minute, the train takes you further from the familiar sights and sounds of everyday life. The rhythmic clatter of the wheels becomes a soothing lullaby, and the flickering lamplight dances playfully on the faces of your fellow passengers, their features momentarily illuminated before disappearing into the shadows. And then, suddenly, just as quickly as it began, the journey ends. The train screeches to a halt, jolting you from your reverie. The carriage doors open, spilling light onto the platform and announcing your arrival. As you step off the train, brushing the crumbs of your uneaten snack from your clothes, you feel a sense of accomplishment. You have conquered the darkness and emerged into the light of dawn. The rhythmic clatter of the wheels fades into the distance, leaving behind a profound sense of tranquility. You take a deep breath, savoring the feeling of renewal that comes with the promise of a new day. So, do you want to take a walk down some dark Victorian streets? Well, I've got just the thing for you, so come along. Now, imagine stepping off that train into the streets of a Victorian city long after most of its inhabitants have gone to bed. The year may be 1880, and the streets of London, or perhaps Edinburgh, stretch out before you. Gas lamps line the avenues, their flames shielded by glass, casting warm pools of light. Between them, shadows gather thick and deep, swallowing alleyways and corners. The cobblestones glisten faintly with moisture, catching the lamplight in uneven glimmers. The city is quieter now. During the day, carriages clattered, vendors called out, and factories thundered. But at night, those sounds fade to the occasional distant rattle of wheels, the clip of a horse's hooves, or the hollow echo of footsteps that are not your own. A watchman makes his rounds, lantern swinging, and from somewhere far away, a church bell strikes the hour, slow and deliberate. The smell of damp stone and soot hangs in the air, mingled with faint hints of bread from a bakery preparing for the morning, or the temps of smoke drifting from a dying hearth. In the East End, narrow lanes twist into darkness, lined with brick houses where families sleep crowded together. In the West End, larger homes stand behind iron railings, their curtains drawn tight, their interiors hushed. Walking these streets, you sense the layered life of the Victorian city, the wealth, the struggle, the loneliness, the companionship. At night, all are equal in the hush of sleep, their stories briefly paused until dawn. As for you, these streets are not threatening, not hurried. They are calm, dreamlike, suspended in time and echo of a world that once was, yet still whispers in the shadows. Do you hear that? Only the sound of your own breathing, the soft rustle of your clothes as you move, the distant murmur of voices that seem to drift from another time. Tick. The gaslights throw long, dancing shadows around you, and the air is alive with the scent of chimney smoke, damp earth, and the sweet, cloying aroma of nearby gin shops. You pull your coat tighter against the evening chill, aware of the rough texture of the fabric, the comforting weight of it against your shoulders. The city feels both familiar and strange, like a half-remembered dream. The rhythmic clip-clop of a lone horse echoes in the stillness, growing louder, then fading into the distance. The only other sound is the mournful cry of an owl, lonely and haunting. The streets are empty, deserted, yet teeming with life. In the darkened windows, you see the silhouettes of sleeping families, their dreams as private and secret as the stories held in the lines on their faces, the stories that have brought them to this moment in time. You pass a house, grand but unassuming, its white-painted door set in a wall of somber gray. The brass knocker gleams dully in the gloom, and the window panes are dark, lifeless eyes staring sightlessly ahead. There is something compelling about the city at night, a raw, untamed beauty that speaks to the wild places in your heart. It's a world away from the bustling, jostling crowds of the day, the clamor and dirt. Here, beneath the watchful gaze of the gaslights, the city exhales, revealing its secrets to those who linger in the shadows. And as the night deepens, so does the silence, broken only by the distant rumble of a passing carriage or the sudden burst of laughter from a group of street urchins playing hide-and-seek in the lamplight. The air grows colder, and you feel the damp seeping into your clothes, chilling you to the bone. The thought crosses your mind that these deserted streets are not as safe as you had imagined, and for a moment you feel a prickle of fear at the back of your neck. Then you remember the stories your grandmother used to tell you about walking these very streets as a young woman, her head held high, her eyes unafraid. And you realize that you are not alone. Not really. Not while there are still stories to be told. Not while there are still shadows to be walked in between the gaslight and the gloom. There is magic to be found. If you listen closely, you might just hear the whispers of the past echoing around you, waiting to be discovered. So come, explore the city after dark and discover the secrets it holds. Who knows what wonders you might find? What stories will you uncover? What whispers will you hear? The city is yours to explore. And now, as if waking from that nighttime walk, you find yourself in a different place entirely, a Victorian walled garden. The hour is early evening, the sun has just slipped behind the horizon, and the garden is bathed in a soft twilight. Its tall brick walls enclose the space, sheltering it from the wind and holding warmth from the day. Within, gravel paths curve between flower beds, laid out with careful symmetry. Roses climb trellises, their fragrance rich in the cooling air. Lavender borders the paths, its scent rising with every step. In one corner, a greenhouse of iron and glass glimmers with faint light, warmed by coal-fired stoves. Inside grow exotic plant balms, orchids, and delicate ferns brought from across the empirage, carefully tended. A reminder of the Victorians' fascination with nature and discovery. Outside, apple trees line the garden's edge, their branches heavy with fruit, while bees hum drowsily as they retreat to their hives. A gardener might still be at work, tying back a climbing vine or closing the glass panes of the greenhouse for the night. But soon the space falls quiet, leaving only the whisper of leaves stirred by a gentle breeze. For Victorians, such gardens were sanctuaries. In the midst of an industrial world filled with smoke and machines, here was a place of order, beauty, and peace. And for you now, listening, the garden is timeless, a calm refuge, a place where the fragrance of flowers, the symmetry of paths, and the hush of evening all combine to create stillness. It's easy to get lost in this sound, to let the gentle breeze whispering through the leaves lull you into a state of peaceful contemplation. But there's more to this sonic sanctuary than meets the ear. The Victorian walled garden isn't just a tranquil escape. It's a meticulously crafted ecosystem, a testament to the Victorian obsession with order and control. The very structure of the garden reflects this ethos. The regular geometric patterns, the neatly trimmed hedges, the orderly rows of flowers and vegetables, all speak to a desire to impose order on the natural world. But within this ordered structure, there is also a sense of wildness, a reminder of the untamed power of nature. The rambling roses, the honeysuckle climbing, the trellis, the unruly growth of the greenhouse plants all suggest the boundless energy of the natural world. And then there are the sounds of the garden itself, the gentle rustling of leaves, the buzzing of insects, the distant song of a bird. These natural sounds are not merely background noise, they are an integral part of the garden experience. The Victorians believed that exposure to natural sounds was essential for health and well-being, and they would often use mechanical devices to replicate these sounds in their gardens. In this sonic landscape, there is a sense of escape, a feeling of being transported to another time and place. The garden becomes a portal to the past, allowing us to experience a bygone era through our ears. It's a reminder of a time when life was slower, when people had more intimate connection with nature, and when the sounds of the city were replaced by the gentle murmur of a garden. As the sun sets and the shadows lengthen, the atmosphere of the garden changes. The air grows cooler, the colors deepen, and the sounds become more muted. There's a sense of mystery and enchantment in the air, a feeling that the garden is alive with unseen presences. The darkness brings with it a sense of peace, a feeling of tranquility that envelops the listener. It's a reminder that even in the midst of a busy, chaotic world, there is always a place of stillness to be found. We just need to tune our ears to the right frequency. This soundscape was created using a combination of field recordings and synthesized sounds. The field recordings were made in a Victorian garden at the Royal Botanic Gardens, Kew. The garden is a 19th century garden designed to recreate the atmosphere of a typical Victorian garden. The sounds of birdsong and insects were recorded in the garden and were used to create the background ambience. The remaining sounds were synthesized using a combination of acoustic and electronic instruments. The goal was to create a soundscape that was both immersive and evocative, a soundscape that would transport the listener to a different time and place. So close your eyes, relax, and let the sounds of the Victorian walled garden carry you away. Let the gentle breeze, the murmuring leaves, and the sweet fragrance of flowers lull you into a state of peaceful contemplation. For in this timeless place, there is beauty, there is tranquility, and there is the promise of a deeper connection with the natural world. From the depths of London's slums to the heights of its grandest cathedrals, from the quiet of a country lane to the bustling city, from the rhythmic crash of the train to the hushed stillness of a moonlit night, you have walked, seen, heard, smelled, and felt the Victorian world. You have wandered through the many corners of the Victorian world, from the narrow slums where families lived in cramped darkness, where the air hung heavy with the scent of waste and despair, to the endless hours inside a factory where the sound of machines echoed like thunder. You walked the quiet lanes of a country village, feeling the steady rhythm of a simpler life, stood beneath the vaulted ceilings of a grand cathedral, where history seemed to breathe through stone and where the air was thick with incense and the murmur of prayers. You watched carriages and fine coats pass by in the bustle of a Victorian city, the world of the wealthy pressing close against the lives of the poor. Later, you boarded the train, carried across the countryside at night, lulled by the iron heartbeat of wheels on the tracks. You walked through the streets after dark, where lamplights spilled softly onto cobblestones and where the city whispered with silence. And finally, you stepped into a walled garden, fragrant and still, where order and calm replaced the noise of industry. These moments were once ordinary life for millions of people, moments of hardship, moments of beauty, moments of silence. Now they exist only in memory, in stories, in stone, and in echoes. And as you drift away, you carry with you the hum of the machines, the flicker of the lamps, the scent of the roses, the whistle of the train at night, the laughter of children at play, the creak of the old wooden stairs, the gentle rocking of the cradle, the murmur of voices in the crowd, the crunch of gravel underfoot, the distant call of a lonely street vendor, the clink of glasses in a crowded pub, the splash of water in the fountain, the chirp of crickets in the twilight, the rustling of leaves in the ancient oak, the beat of a blacksmith's hammer, the lowing of cattle in the fields, the rumble of thunder in a summer storm, the crackle of a fire in the grate, the hiss of steam from a passing engine, the murmur of the crowd at the theater, the sigh of the wind through a chimney, the flapping of pigeons on the roof, the distant toll of a church bell. They blurred together, soft and distant, becoming something like a dream. The Victorian world is quiet now. The voices are hushed. The streets are empty. The gardens are still. It is a world that no longer exists, yet it remains alive in imagination. As you close your eyes and let your thoughts drift, remember that every age, no matter how noisy and crowded it once seemed, eventually becomes a story told in whispers. And tonight, those whispers have become your lullaby. Rest now, sleep deeply, and let the echoes of the past carry you into dreams. The sounds fade into the distance, each one slipping away until there is nothing but silence. Even that, too, eventually fades until your own breathing is the only sound in a world that no longer exists.